Hi everyone. Welcome to Heart2Heart Pod. So I just want to start off by saying thank you to everyone who has tuned in and for all your encouraging words and honest feedback. You guys have been really supportive and I really appreciate it. Honestly, it hasn't been easy for me to do this, to be vulnerable and put myself out there with this podcast. And I'm really excited to have many guests who are also brave enough to do this with me. And I do want to say, though, that to the people that have tuned in, most of you are my friends and people who are in my network who are extremely kind and loving and supportive. But I also want to remind myself these things, like to validate myself and not seek validation from other people. And also, as a reminder that people are going to judge you for what you do or don't do anyway. So just live your life, right? But today I do have a special guest and I want to introduce her to you all. So hi, Karen.
Hi! It's so nice to be part of your podcast. I'm so happy that you invited me.
Yes, I'm actually
So,
really excited just because for this topic today, you have been a really big part of my life, but also 2020
oh,
last year. And so I thought of you immediately when I decided to do this episode. And Karen, like, do you remember how we met?
I believe it was maybe like the first month of undergrad. I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to catch your roommate for one of our games
Yeah,
on the floor, and I'm pretty sure I offered you candy
yeah,
because
yeah.
I thought,
We've actually known each other for a decade now, right? It's
oh my
been
gosh,
a
yeah,
long time. Yeah, we
yeah.
met in Waterloo, so in university first year. And since then, you have been one of my closest friends. So I'm really happy to do this with you.
Yeah, and I feel like when it comes to vulnerable topics and
Mm-hmm.
personal growth, you are my go-to person to talk to. So
Oh,
I'm excited that you have a podcast to talk about these topics because I love talking to about these topics with you.
yeah, same here. I
So
love to have heart to heart with you. So yeah, we can go right into our topic, but you can briefly introduce yourself.
okay, I'm Karen. I guess the best way to describe myself is food nerd. Um, your friendly neighborhood food scientist.
Yeah, that's true.
I love to talk about food. I
Yes.
basically I have the side effect of making everyone around me hungry within a half an hour
Yeah,
from
that's
talking about food.
yeah. I love going on food adventures with Karen. She will want to try different new foods, and she'll take me along. And even when we're traveling together, I was just eating a lot and also happy. Now we can dive into our topic for this episode. The first part of it, we're gonna do a 2020 reflection, and then the second part is that we're gonna talk about our New Year resolutions for 2021. For our 2020 reflection, I'm gonna ask you the fifth question, which is,
Oh
what's
my.
okay? So, what's something you
Mhm.
learned in 2020?
So I think one thing that I learned um, during 2020 from everything that has happened in this crazy year was
Mm-hmm.
how important the role effective communication is in getting ideas across to people
Mm-hmm.
um, with bigger issues like global issues like misinformation and doubts surrounding the vaccine to even just uh, personal events of maybe miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very important to look at communication and think about what's the most effective way of expressing your ideas. Um, yeah.
No, that's a good answer. I agree. It's so hard to communicate during this time, like during the pandemic. And yeah, all of us are mostly communicating through like virtual video chats or phone calls, and we can't really see other people and their body language, and or even messaging along most every day. We're messaging people, but we can't really know how they're really doing or how they're feeling.
Exactly. And I think especially for like virtual communications, there are so many cues that you are missing. Like you hear people's voices, but most of the time
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of texting back and forth, and you are missing a large portion of the message that you're trying to convey. So
Mm-hmm.
not having that body language, not having that facial expression, how is the best way for you to express your ideas without coming across in the most, I guess, uh, expressive way?
Mm-hmm.
And I find that in a professional and personal setting, it's definitely a challenge, and it's a challenge that a lot of people will be facing in 2020 because of how we work and communicate nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What was something that you learned?
So for 2020, I'm sure with yourself and I, we all learned so much. So to talk about one thing, I would say that I learned to love more. And by that, I meant that, so 2020, again, it was such a challenging year. We all experienced so much anxiety, stress, and grief with everything that's
Mm-hmm.
happened. And what has kept me sane was the people in my life. Um, and, I'm so appreciative of all of you and all the relationships that I have with everyone and keeping in touch with everyone. I feel really blessed. And I just, even during that time and now, I just want to be a more loving person for others and especially myself. And I definitely learned to take care of myself more. And I felt that that was so important to really like slow down and make time for myself that so that I can take care of other people too. So that was like my big thing for 2020. Yeah.
I think that is very important to remember, especially for 2020, because I mean, there's so many like you hear so many stories about everything that is happening, and just remembering that there's still good in the world, and that
Yeah.
to remember how to treat people. I
Mhm.
think that's really important.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone has been like going through so much, and you just want to
Hmm.
be there for the people who matter to you and check in with them too. What is something you learned about yourself in 2020?
So one thing I learned about myself was how important it is to develop a coping mechanism or a stress reliever.
Oh, good one. Okay.
Uh, yeah. So, I guess I should probably go back a little bit and say that, for as you know, from our decade of friendship, I make a lot of food. I bake a lot and I cook a lot.
Yeah.
So, not having that coping mechanism, through this year has been really hard for me. And so I have
Mhm.
kind of dabbled with different activities that I could relieve my stress. It doesn't fill that void that I had for cooking and baking.
Mhm.
And I guess that's kind of when I realized that cooking and baking is a stress reliever for me, but it's also a passion for me. It is something that I need in my life. So, um, if I guess realizing that made me realize that I am going in the right track with what I am working on,
Mhm.
and it has pushed me to find ways instead of making the excuse of I can't cook or I can't bake because I don't have um, an accessible kitchen. It forced me to find ways to adopt and find ways to fill that void anyways. So recently, I have been able to find a super tiny baking set, like the kinds that you can find in for easy bake ovens,
Oh, really?
and a toaster oven. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I now have a 3-inch cake pan that's like about the size of like maybe smaller than my face,
Uh
and
huh.
I can make one person size cheesecakes. So I'm going to make a Basque cheesecake in the afternoon.
Wow. Oh
Hmm.
wow. No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so good because I remember you did say that um you don't have much of an opportunity to cook at home, and
Hmm.
but I also know that you have also been doing a lot of other activities that you're passionate about. Like you did a lot of painting and a lot of other things, and which help you cope during this time.
Yeah, and I started working out, and
Mm-hmm.
I used my time to learn a lot about personal finance and
Mm-hmm.
other skills too. But I guess it really made me realize how much I missed doing this one activity, and that's when it hit me that it wasn't just a stress reliever or a coping mechanism. It is a
Mm-hmm.
passion. It is something I need in my life. So,
Wow.
Tina,
Yes.
what is your coping mechanism?
Oh, my coping mechanism. Okay. So how I cope is that I dive right into my passions, like similar to you. So I think that's how this podcast came to be. Like I had the idea for like earlier in the year, and then it was from an experience where I was feeling really sad about that. It was like the catalyst to launching this podcast because I needed something to, I guess, distract myself, but also because I just wanted to do something that would fill my heart and soul. And so I decided, like, oh, I'm going to launch this podcast. And I had so many reasons to do this. And I felt like it would not only help me develop better communication skills, but to also connect with my friends and also it would just be a really fun thing to do. So this is
Yeah,
one of the things I did.
yeah, I think it's really admirable that you're able to find something from your sadness and then rise from it. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really admirable.
Thank you.
Okay, what's something that you learned about yourself?
Okay, so for myself, I felt that I learned that I'm stronger and more capable than I know. And by that, I mean during like last year, I surprised myself multiple times in just in the circumstances that we're in and how much I was able to do and keep myself busy, that type of thing, because I was juggling my full time job and also the two freelance writing gigs that I had landed earlier in the year. And so I was juggling all of that, but also I dived into copywriting, which is something that I've never done before. And I had to take a course during that time, like a 40-hour online course, and do a couple of assignments. And it was really hard to do that and manage my
Hmm.
time. So then having to do all of that and to focus on myself and again like you I also started working out more and I want to learn more about finance and all of those things, so trying to like focus on different areas of my life and making progress in all those areas no matter how small it is. So then I'm proud of myself and proud of all of you everyone for just like working on ourselves during this time.
Hmm. And I I mean, remember how busy you were during that time, and I
Being
mean,
full
it was
time.
amazing. It was
Yeah.
amazing how much you were able to accomplish. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was going crazy. But I mean but at the same time it was like, during this pandemic it also forces you to slow down too, and that's when I'm also,
Hmm.
because I'm home a lot more too and I'm saving time from having to commute to work, and I'm able to take care of myself better, and I found ways to like also incorporate a lot of self-care time into my schedule. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I mean, it sounds like you learn a lot about time management, and also like with the pandemic, because you have so much extra time, then you have to balance like how much is too much to do, and
Mm-hmm.
also still giving yourself enough time for self-care, because that's also important too.
Yeah.
Oh.
I tried. Yes.
I think you succeeded. So,
Oh, thank you.
so Tina,
Mhm.
what's the best book that you've read in 2020?
Okay, so I don't think I read that many books. Well, I mean, I read a number of books, but I would say that one of the best books that I read in 2020 is Educated, and that book is it's a memoir, so like true story, and I felt that it was very heartbreaking, but also
Mm-hmm.
really inspiring. And just like quick summary sentence is that it's about a young woman who grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and she didn't receive proper education, but she took it in her own hands, and she went to college and got a PhD, and she overcame a lot of hardships to get to where she is today. And I felt that in the beginning it was really hard to read, like very difficult to read, and I took me a while to get into it actually. But I think that afterwards, as I got closer to the end, it was like, really inspiring, and I love stories like that. So I would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like a really inspirational story. It sounds like a really deep book. So that would
Yeah,
inspire a lot of deep conversations.
yeah, I think you would like it because I don't know, it's about education. Well, I mean, I think well, it's education, but also it's very inspiring too. So I think you would like
Hmm.
that. But
Yeah.
for yourself, like, what about you? Like, what book did you read that you would recommend?
Okay, so for this question, I am going to cheat a little bit because
Okay.
technic technically I started this book um 10 minutes before the end of 2020,
Okay.
so it still kind of
It counts.
counts.
It counts.
But
Okay.
um but it is called How to Listen with Intention by Patrick King.
Mhm.
And it just blew my mind. It opened my mind to what effective listening sounds like.
Okay.
And I felt it was extremely relatable. I started reading a bunch of communication books, and I still feel like this one was the most made the most impact on me because starting from the first page when he had an example of this is a conversation that this person and their therapist had, um and so I just read through the dialogue, and I thought, okay, it sounds like a good conversation. And
Mhm.
having him kind of dissect it and analyze it and say, well, these are the reasons why this person wasn't receptive to what his therapist said, because these are the ways that the therapist indirectly communicated their thoughts and left the person unable to express themselves. And it was and I never thought about it that way, and it just completely opened my mind on how effective listening sounds like.
Mhm.
Uh, so I highly recommend it for people who want to understand how to better communicate, because
Mhm.
I think that's very important.
Yeah, that's really true. Like, so did they give other like tips for people as well?
Um, so it went into depth on the different types of, I guess, the levels of listening,
Mhm.
of how to best respond, or like the best way to conduct a conversation. So, because especially for me, I feel like I am terrible at small talks. So being able to kind of how to direct a conversation, how
Mhm.
to um, try to come off more, I guess, connected,
Mhm.
with an acquaintance. I think those are skills that are super helpful.
Yeah, that sounds super helpful. I think it's something I would want to read as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's very good for networking, and
Mhm.
I know that you do a lot of networking, so I can totally imagine you finding a lot of useful information from this book.
Yeah, I haven't really done much networking in a while, but for sure, I think it'll be beneficial to just not just like for networking, but for everyday life, right? So I have a very, very intense question.
Okay.
um, are you ready?
Okay. Okay. I am ready.
All right.
I'm nervous, but ready.
Okay. So the question is, what hurt you and how did you benefit from it?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. um, but what hurt me in 2020 the most was having a fallout with a friend. But what hurt me the most about that situation was realizing that the version of me that they saw was not the version of myself that I want to be portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess it was really important that I had that lesson,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like I am a much better version of myself because of this situation. But
Mm-hmm.
it also made me realize that I am my strongest advocate. I know I can be more confident and capable
Mm-hmm.
and a stronger person than I was. But if I don't advocate for that version of myself, how would anyone else get to see that version of me?
Mm-hmm.
And I am so grateful that I have my family and friends that were able to see that stronger version of me, even when I didn't feel like that person, and they were able to, and including you, to be
Yeah.
there during my darkest time and remind me that I can be that person, that
Mm-hmm.
like that stronger version of myself. But it also made me realize that it it's not I need to be able to advocate for myself. I need to be able to
Mm-hmm.
believe that version of in that version of myself in order to become a better version of me.
No, yeah, I agree. I love that. I
Oh, thank you.
definitely like I saw you. Well, I know what you went through, but also I've seen you grow from it, and yeah, I'm really proud of you. And I know like we both do a lot of like self reflection, so like you have definitely learned a lot from that experience, and you're even stronger and better version of yourself for sure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, so here's the loaded question for you, Tina.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, what hurt you and how do you benefit from it?
Okay. So I thought long and hard how I'm going to answer this question. um, yeah. So I'm going to talk about it, but not go into detail. Okay. But basically, something I have to say is that I feel like everyone has experienced at least one heartbreak in 2020. And I say
Mm,
that as in the global pandemic in itself is like heartbreaking for all of us, right? And there
for
has
sure.
also, yeah, there's also been so many other negative news that has happened. Black Lives Matter, the politics, and one thing after another. Everything was just so chaotic. And I'm sure like other people have other heartbreaks, whether that's related to romance or career or friendship or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
So I do have to say that, I do take responsibility for the things I did or did not do. And I felt that from the experience that I had, it was a lot of it was, well, was not setting better boundaries and clearly communicating that, and or just not communicating my feelings or these boundaries just to keep the peace, but that in itself cost my own peace of mind. So then that's what I learned from that experience. And but again, I felt like because of that, I learned so many different things, like not just like many different things from that experience, but also I am And then of course that helped me dive, or that was the catalyst to diving into my passions and that kind of thing. And like just overall, I felt like there was a lot of self work and healing that I had to do, and not just from my experience alone, but since the beginning of 2020, and being having more time alone with your own thoughts. There was so much of that introspection where I was like, oh, this is what I need to work on and that kind of thing. But I am grateful for the experiences that I had, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the struggle of trying to set your boundary is such a relatable one. So
Mm-hmm.
I totally feel for you, and I understand. And it's amazing that you're able to just take that hurt and find something to grow from it. So I think that's a really important skill that
Mm-hmm.
people should have, and it's amazing that you're able to do so much with it.
Yeah. So there is we've both grown a lot in
Yeah.
2020. Yes. And again, you were also there for me. I remember like when I was still processing what has happened, and you're like,
Uh-huh.
oh, do you want to talk about it? And then we got to talk about it, and I felt like I got more clarity from talking to you during that time. So that helped a
I
lot.
felt like, well, I got a lot of inspiration from our conversation.
Yeah.
So I guess we were both advocating for each other. We were both
Yes.
inspiring each other.
Yes.
So
And we need to advocate for ourselves more.
yes.
Yes. Yes. Yay. Okay. Now we can jump on to the new year because we have so much more to look forward to, and we will be talking about more of our goals and just what we want to achieve in 2021. And so, my question for you is, what is your word or theme for 2021? I'm not sure if you have done something like this before, but do you have a word?
So I actually didn't have a word
Mm-hmm.
until we had this conversation a while ago, and I thought, oh yeah, I should have a word.
Mm-hmm.
And in preparation for this podcast, I came up with 3 words.
Oh, okay. You know what? 3 words. Who thinks it has to
So,
be a one-word theme for 2021?
but I will keep it short.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So they're gratitude, resilience, and growth.
Oh, I love it. Okay. All right. You can explain each one.
Okay, so I have gratitude for how fortunate I am to have a sense of stability and feel emotionally supported in a world that feels uncertain right now.
Mm-hmm.
And even though there's so much turmoil going on outside in the world, this year I just feel loved by all my family and friends, and I feel so grateful for all the people I have in my life, even though I don't get to see everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, lots of gratitude. And it reminds me to practice gratitude in 2021, to express that generosity and that kindness to whoever I can. Um, and resilience to remind me that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. Um, Humankind got through the 1918 influenza, and
Mm-hmm.
history repeats itself. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we could get through this too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And growth, to focus my extra time right now to become the better version of me, physically and emotionally, uh, for the future when we can all go out and eat. I'm just excited to eat.
Eat and
And see,
travel.
yes, eat, travel, and see people.
Yes, yes, of course. But as soon as we can go, it's not like I'm gonna book a plane and you disappear.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys first.
Yeah.
So myself, every year I have a word. I started this in 2015. I started this whole thing then, and so last year my word was trust, and basically it was to trust myself in the timing of my life, And I do want to talk about this. Yeah, 2020, I had a counselor, and we actually came up with a statement. And I really like the statement, so I'm going to read it. And also, I want to bring it forward to this year too. And the statement is, my goal is to step outside of my comfort zone in order to build self-trust, motivation, and growth, not perfection. So I really like that because I can always go back to it and read it and remind myself like what kind of year I want to have or who I want to be. Right. So I really like that. And I have to say that even last year, I really tried to remind myself, trust. And in the beginning of the year, a lot of opportunities came up where they were wrapped in shiny packages. And then most of them, like I'm talking about, are job opportunities. And but then I had to listen to myself and really ask myself, like, is this what I want? Is this aligned to my values or my goals and what direction I want to go towards? So then that's when I accepted my freelance writing gigs because that got me excited and I knew it was what I wanted to do. Whereas the other opportunity was I wanted it more for the prestige and just because it looks good. So my word for 2021 is vulnerability. And basically, I want to truly embrace vulnerability and have more open and honest conversations with others around me, and even be like more honest with myself, right? And just to build self-confidence and trust as well as connection. So that is my word.
I think that's a really good word, and it's very important, but also really scary to practice
Yeah.
vulnerability.
Yeah,
So,
but I feel like, I've only been a month right now. We're in January, but I have been doing that in like smaller ways, and you just gonna have to practice that, like whenever it comes up, but also like in your daily life too, like the little things. Yeah. So now that we're on to 2021, I do want to know for yourself, what are you hoping to achieve this year? What are some of your goals that you have? You can talk about your internal and external goals and maybe like what idea you have in looking towards these goals.
so I guess I have two routes. It is the first route is the hopeful route of when the world opens up again. um,
True.
so if and when the world opens up again, my goal would be to sign up for culinary classes.
Oh, yes. You did talk
Yes,
about that.
yeah, but I wanted to take, but I thought I was too busy to take, and now I'm not realizing that 2020 was going to happen the way that it did. I now, well, I mean, if I knew, I would have taken courses earlier. So one of the first things that I would do would be to sign up for culinary classes at George Brown, and I want to be able to get a certificate in culinary skills.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the time being, because I can't take in-person classes, uh, I want to work on, I guess the goals that I'm working on would be related to communication because I realized how important it was from the previous year.
Yeah.
Uh, Overall, I want to become a better communicator. So
We have the same goals.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I'm I was super excited when you invited me to be part of your podcast because it I am not great at public speaking, and this really pushes me to be more cautious of how I am speaking, which
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so
so,
happy that you were also excited to be a part of this.
mhm,
And again, I know that you also have this goal in mind, but also it is not easy to even do this. And later on, when you listen again and and like listen to this episode again, you really will realize and become more self-aware of how you speak and any filler words that you have, as well as the words that you might repeat again and again. And honestly, it was so difficult for me to edit the first 2 episodes because it was just hard to listen to myself and just how I speak. But then it will get better with time. With practice, we'll get better.
For sure. I found a bunch of resources that, such as books, for communication, overcoming shyness, self-confidence, public speaking, that I aim to finish reading by the end of the year. So I have a lot of resources. Yeah. And I subscribe to a list of podcasts that would give me ideas on how to best present myself in a professional setting. So some of my favorites are from Harvard Business Review.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I highly suggest it.
Yeah.
There's one called The Anxious Achiever, which just the title
Oh my gosh.
makes me so relatable.
Yes, that sounds relatable too. Wow,
Mhm.
yeah, you definitely need to share these resources with me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I listen to them in the
Mhm.
showers, and it just makes me, because you have the shower thoughts too. So you're
Okay,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like you're reflecting on your whole life, and you're listening to all these ideas, and they're just like mixing with like your reflection of your day, and you're like, yeah, that's one way I can improve myself.
Mhm.
Maybe I could have presented my ideas this way during my meeting, and it would have came across much better than how, I try to present it this way. And
Mhm.
yeah, I highly suggest those podcasts.
Okay, good suggestions.
Yeah. So, what are some goals that you have?
Okay, so for myself, I do have internal goals and also external goals. So again, there is embracing vulnerability and becoming a more confident and articulate communicator, which I am doing with this podcast, for example, as one of the things I'm doing. And I also feel like I do want to network more as well. This is a good time to do that, and just hop on calls with random people. Or just like,
Hmm.
yeah, and so like networking, creating opportunities for that. And another thing that I have down is I want to adopt a more abundant and why not mindset. So then, um, so like I want to be able like to believe that I have everything that I want already and everything that I need, but also to focus more on the good things in my life so I can attract better or more good things, better things in my life, and just have more abundance in my life. So that's the abundant mindset part. And then the why not part is also like, why not, but like, why not me? So
Hmm.
then whenever opportunities come up or something that comes up, and I might think, okay, like, why not? Like, why not say yes to this opportunity? It will be maybe outside my comfort zone, but if it excites me or I feel like it is helping me grow in some way, even as I'm scared to do it, like just why not go for it? Kind of like, for example, like applying for a job, I might see a job posting that I might want to apply for, but then might not feel really qualified for it, but kind of think, why not? Why not me? Right. And then
Hmm.
see if I even, get to the interview stage. And if I get to interview stage, I can practice for the interview and just see let's see how far I can go type of thing too. Right. So to have those kind of mindset and, so there's quite a number of internal goals, but there's also
Hmm.
one more internal goal, and that is to practice self-compassion. So this one, I felt like I think I even told you and the girls before in beginning of pandemic where I felt that I kind of lacked self compassion, and I said that because I felt like, well, especially during that time, but in general or when I was younger, especially, I had a lot of like negative self talk growing up, and even in my past I guess diary entries or letters, I was pretty negative in that even when I have the thoughts that I had in my head, I didn't speak to myself kindly or I didn't think kindly to myself. And I do want to share this story, this short story where so every year I write letters to myself, and I write it to my future self. So I have written it for my milestone years, or like 25, 30. And afterwards, I started to write it for every year. And I opened my letter for 2021 this year. And I was really surprised because this was the nicest letter I've written to myself.
Aw.
Yeah, because before I would say things like, "Oh, I hope you accomplish this and this in your life, like right now. Like I hope you accomplish those things." And I didn't, and then I felt sad, right?
Mhm.
And it's like I guess it's a good thing to kind of remind you, like, oh, are you really living your life the way you want it to? As you're reading those letters. But this letter, when I wrote to myself, I said, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." And I said that I know when you read past letters that you write to yourself, a lot of times you're disappointed because you're not where you want to be in life. But then I said, "Oh, if this hasn't happened yet, or you haven't achieved this yet, it's okay." And then just the way I was talking to myself, I'm like, "Oh, this is what I would say to a friend." So I need to practice self-compassion more, and practice your love language on yourself. So
Yeah.
that, yeah.
I
Mhm.
definitely agree that it is hard, especially with this year. It feels like it just kind of flew
Mhm.
by, and there wasn't much that we can really do to take the year back. And having that self-compassion to kind of say it's okay, you can't plan everything out. You just have to work with what the situation is. I think that's really important, and that's a really important mindset.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah.
I also have external goals.
Mhm.
So one external goal is I want to be more financially literate and to manage my finances better. And then, of course, given I'm looking on my own pace based on my own circumstances, but then like little things that I could do or I have already scheduled, like next week, I have a call with a friend who is also like a personal finance advisor or consultant. So I'll be talking to him. And then I have the financial diet webinar that I signed up for like last year. So
Mhm.
I'm going to attend that, like little things I can do. I'm even reading this book. It's called Worry Free Money. So I don't know if this is, I mean, I started reading it and it's more on the mindset part of it right now, but I'm sure like just reading this book I'll learn more about like finances. And again, you recommended the Financial Diet podcast, and I'm
Mhm.
listening to that. And just setting time aside to be more financially literate. Hmm.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's something I wish they taught us in school, and so just
Yeah.
and now having, I guess, like the time to kind of catch up and try to learn all these things is it's really nice. I keep saying that I learned a lot of these financial advice on TikTok, which sounds
Oh, okay.
kind of silly, but
Yeah.
you learn so much on TikTok.
That's actually one of the reasons I want to get TikTok, which I haven't yet. But the
Uh,
one reason, because you guys are like sharing some stuff and you're always like, oh, like, I learned like finance from TikTok. I'm like, what? Okay, maybe I should get that for that reason alone. But yeah, you girls have been also motivating me to learn more or like to focus more on that area of my life. Like finance is so important. But again, wished I learned about it in school, but we didn't. It was more like high school. I learned like really basic stuff, but in undergrad we had science background, so that was
mhm.
couldn't really fit any of that type of courses in our schedule. Another goal, learning to cook or learning to cook more.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
um,
okay, so I have a lot of suggestions for you, so
okay.
let me
Okay.
know later on.
Yeah, because like before, when we were able to go out, you girls held
Mhm.
me accountable every month to cook, right?
Mhm.
And actually, I do have to say, I so for Christmas and my birthday, I got a smoothie blender, which I requested, and an instant
Mhm.
pot, which I still have to open the box because
Okay, so
the first step is open the box. But I do
mhm.
plan to cook at least once a week. I cook
Good
something
for you.
new at least once a week. It's not like I don't
Mhm.
cook over the week, but it's more like cook a
Mhm.
new recipe.
Yes. So I have a lot of meal prep suggestions, a lot of
Oh,
ideas that I could
okay,
give you for easy recipes.
okay,
So
good.
I will let you know a bunch that depending on what kind of cuisine you like.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I'm so
yeah,
down.
and it's
Healthy recipes,
yeah, yes,
easy recipes.
yes, easy recipes. The keyword is easy.
Yes, yes, easy,
Yes.
simple. Okay, good.
hmm
Yeah, yeah. So that is something that I'm planning to do. And final one that I'm going to talk about is there's this magazine that I want to get published on,
hmm
and it's actually last year's goal that I'm putting putting forward to this year.
hmm
And basically, I wrote like half an article, and I just need to finish it, edit it, and submit it, and see if I, how get it published. So
hmm
that's my final goal that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, you have, it sounds like you have a lot of goals, and I
Yeah.
am excited to hear all about the progress of your projects during the year.
Yes.
So, I am excited to see um your article too. So,
Mm,
yeah.
yes. Yes. I'm sure like the world will open up soon, hopefully soon, and
hmm
I'm excited for you when you take your culinary class.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, actually, I have one more project I forgot to mention.
Yeah, yes. Talk about all of them so we can hold you accountable.
Okay.
The world will
So,
hold you accountable.
oh boy. So I guess related to the communication part that I mentioned, I realized how important science communication is and how often it doesn't get the limelight that it deserves. But um, a couple of years ago, I went to a talk hosted by ASAP Science, who are also alumni from Guelph that I did my graduate studies at, and they talked about science communication and um, how important it is to diffuse science knowledge from experts to the public. Uh, and we can see how important that is because there is so much mistrust in scientific knowledge because people don't understand it. And sometimes I will listen to interviews with experts on the field and I can understand why, because from a science background, I understand why they would talk about these ideas so broadly,
Hmm.
but I can also understand how it can be misinterpreted the wrong way. Um, so related to what I have studied, which is food science, I wanted to be able to communicate the science behind food,
Hmm.
and maybe food history in a more palatable way, through a blog. So that's kind of what I'm working on, kind of talking about topics of why is, the philosophy behind ramen, the why do you find spam in cuisines around the world,
Hmm.
um, and stories like that to kind of, I guess, talk about the science behind that food.
Yeah, I think it'd be really interesting because you're not just talking about like how this food tastes, but
hmm
you're talking about the science behind it, and that would be really interesting. So I'm looking forward to reading your blog posts and articles on that.
Yep, I'm looking forward to having the post too.
We can have study virtual dates, like
Yes.
where we just work on our own stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hold. hold myself
Studies, not
accountable
really
for it.
study, but work dates. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We're not studying anymore. So we have a lot that we want to do. And how would you say that you are staying organized and motivated during this time? And do you use any tools to stay organized?
So I love lists and to-do lists and schedules. So I have definitely used those in order to keep myself accountable for all the goals that I want to complete. I'm not going to say her name because she's going to freak out, but my
Oh,
virtual assistant
okay. Okay.
from Amazon that begins with A, it wakes me up in the morning and reads my to-do list and schedule every morning. So it kind of reminds me that, okay, I have all these things that I want to complete today. For example, it will remind me, you're working out today. And I go, oh, I guess I am.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Um, I also make sure that I put on my schedule time that I'm spending with family and friends because I don't want to forget about it and it makes me put that block of time away so I don't overschedule myself. Um, it and that motivates me too because it gives me little blocks of time to kind of look forward to just do nothing but to hang out with people.
Hmm.
Even though the world is virtual now, it does force me to get a little bit creative to do these, to spend time and do these things with people. So it's kind of fun. And exercise, lots of
Hmm.
exercise. So from someone who hasn't exercised as often as I should have until March of 2020, all the cliches that you hear about exercising is absolutely true. You do feel like you're in a better mood after you work out, and
Hmm.
once you get over that initial hump, it gets easier and easier to exercise on a regular basis. So
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, I think the toughest part, the obstacle to being able to exercise regularly, is to find something that you are excited to do, something like an exercise that you want to do. So
Hmm.
maybe a sport, maybe it's running. For me, it was Pilates because it also gave me it allowed me to work on my strength, but it also gave me the time to kind of mentally focus on which part of my body I wanted to work on and focus on my breath and that sort of thing that also calms my mind. What about you? Do you have any hints and tips on how to stay organized and motivated?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, I have this big desk calendar on my desk, and I love it because it's so big, and I get to write whatever down. So I write like holidays and events that I have, anything work related, like writing assignments. And I even write down like when I work out just to know, like, say I want to work out 3 to 4 times a week at least, then I can write it down and kind of see what I do. And I write everything down. Even if I go for a walk, I'm like, okay, that counts, So like I just write everything down. And of course, like when I have calls with people like you, I write that down. And um, as well as like I want to do face masks for twice a week, so I write that down, and that kind of helps me see what I do throughout the week too. And I also have like the daily to-do list, which I try to keep it short, um, so that I can actually achieve like cross them out and achieve like the big goals or the big tasks for the day. I also use this app. It's called this app called Trello.
Mhm.
Not sure if you've heard of it, but I basically use it, and there are different and I create different categories where I would break things down into even smaller tasks.
Mm.
Because what I realized, it's like say you have a big project, and like for example, this podcast, to do one episode instead of putting down the task to record episode 3 and just I would break it down into smaller tasks so that I can do it throughout the week or do it one task this day and another task another day, because it is so much easier when you have a really simple, easy task or smaller task to work on and just kind of eliminate that. So then I have, yeah, so then that's something I realized, because otherwise it's really difficult to even get started. But I have like different sections where I'll put down like how different sections for it, where I have like a self care section where I just have like affirmations or like statements where I just kind of like go over once in a while. And then I have other section where it is like for work or like any writing assignments, and then the podcast, and then even like other random tasks. like
Yeah.
yeah. So then that's kind of how I've been trying to stay organized. I mean, I know a lot of people use Google Calendar, and I
Mhm.
try to use that, but for some reason, it's when I really schedule things down, it's a little difficult for me to follow through with it. I mean,
Mhm.
I still try to do it, but I'm trying to still figure out what's the best way to stay organized for myself.
Mhm. I think also with like a full calendar, either it be Google or an actual giant desk calendar, when you look back at it, seeing all the events that you have done, all the scheduling, all the things that you have did, and all the people that you got to spend time with, it's a big motivation too. I
Mm-hmm.
remember feeling really sad um, about not being able to do anything this year and looking at my calendar and feeling like it's so blank.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and compared to the year before where it was so full, and I felt like my whole year just kind of blew by and I didn't do anything. But actually thinking about it, realizing I actually did accomplish a lot. I just didn't put it down on my calendar because I didn't
Yeah.
have time and places. I just kind of had to turn on my laptop. So I started doing that once I realized this. And when I look at my calendar, it feels so much more organized. It feels like it's still reminding myself that I am still motivated. I am still doing stuff, even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to places. So just having that organization is a motivation too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And, I think we should be proud of ourselves for all that we've done. Like, sometimes we should have days where we do nothing, but I
Yes.
think that we are pretty productive with our time. And I know that you and all my other friends have been doing that, really focusing on ourselves, and whether that's fitness or like learning about finance and working on our passions. Like, I feel like we are all really using our time well, because when we want, this is a good time to do that. Hmm.
Yep. I absolutely agree.
Hmm. And yeah, so I do want to say that for everyone who is working towards a goal or many goals this year, it's good to set them and to strategize how you're going to accomplish them, but also don't be so hard on yourself. Try not to burn out and just like enjoy the process and celebrate all the small wins. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I do want to say, Karen, thank you for joining me today and sharing your reflections and also your resolutions with us, for just showing up and being vulnerable.
Oh, thank you for having me. I am so happy to be here having these conversations with you. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Oh,
So
I know you want to be in another country. I mean, yeah,
okay, well, maybe that.
yeah.
Maybe in Paris with the hazelnut, that chestnut crepe. I'm still thinking about that.
Oh, yes, yes. But yes, any final words?
Well, everyone, 2021 is going to be knock on wood, everything will go well. Well, actually, do we knock on wood? I don't know, but
True.
2021 is going to be a great year.
Uh-huh.
Um, And we will continue to practice gratitude and resilience and grow from this experience and hang in there.
Yeah, great. And where can we find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at KPS_eats to find good eats and more about my upcoming projects on food science and history. And yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, we all look forward to that. Definitely follow Ken and her food adventures. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.